Hello everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. So this is a video that I've wanted to do for a couple months now because the newest trailer for Avatar: The Way of Water just came out, and the movie's supposed to come out next month in December. As of recording this review, I have not seen the new trailer. In fact, it hasn't even been released, but I imagine I did a YouTube Shorts review for it not too long ago, so you can check that out on the channel. But this is a video I've actually wanted to do ever since the first trailer came out, back in May with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because the buzz surrounding the sequel going into it has been interesting to say the least. A lot of people are excited for it, but a good handful of people as well are skeptical about it, mainly because of the legacy of the first Avatar. How initially a lot of people, everyone seemed to love it when it first came out, but as time went on, people have just kind of looked down on it, saying, yeah, it's actually not very good, or it's overrated and whatnot. And even when I saw the previous trailer for the first time in front of Doctor Strange, there was a couple sitting next to me that was kind of snickering towards it and making fun of it. So I wanted to make this video more or less to say why you should give the sequel a chance, because I think there's a lot of unfair criticisms towards not being excited for this movie. In order to do that, I have to go down a basic list of all the complaints that people have had about the first movie for the past 13 years. I should emphasize right now that this is not a review for the first Avatar. That'll come later, the closer we get to the sequel. But throughout the 13 years that this movie has been released, I've noticed 5 complaints that keep resurfacing. Everyone falls back on these 5 issues on making an argument for Avatar not being a good movie. One complaint I hear constantly is that the first Avatar didn't leave a cultural impact on us. And if by cultural impact you mean it didn't create a bunch of memes that people can use and share around the internet, then that's a really sad bar to climb. If you're talking about how it wasn't a groundbreaking movie or didn't influence the film industry, then you couldn't be any more wrong. Because while Avatar didn't leave a cultural impact the way Terminator 2, Aliens, or Titanic did, it certainly left a mark, and you can't really deny that. For one, it revolutionized motion capture technology. And what I'm about to say is by no means meant to devalue some of the previous motion capture characters that have come before, like Gollum from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or King Kong from Peter Jackson's remake, or Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. But the motion capture technology used for Avatar was next level. You really got a true sense that this is not just a special effect for the sake of being a special effect. This is an actual performance from the actors. You really get to see details in their faces that you wouldn't normally see in previous characters. And without the things that Avatar did in terms of this technology, we probably wouldn't have had Andy Serkis's Caesar from Planet of the Apes trilogy, or Mark Ruffalo's Hulk from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was the first time that the same actor got to play both Bruce Banner and the Hulk. So Avatar certainly laid the groundwork for that in terms of motion capture technology, and 3D as well. Even though we don't have as many 3D movies nowadays as we did in the few years after Avatar's success, there was a lot of attempts to try to make 3D movies. Some of them failed. Some of them failed spectacularly, but others actually succeeded. Whether the movies were good or not, there were films that actually knew how to use 3D correctly. I mean, as much as I hate to give this movie any praise whatsoever, Transformers: Dark of the Moon looked pretty impressive in 3D. Martin Scorsese's Hugo, even though I didn't really care for the movie itself, at least based on my one time watching it, it looked amazing in 3D. So if 3D is done right, then there's no real issue, and Avatar paved the way for that to happen. I mean, okay, I'll throw in another example, Jackass 3D. Maybe not the movie that people were hoping would follow in the 3D footsteps, but it still counts. Some people back up the no cultural impact claim by saying, well, for being the highest grossing movie of all time, it doesn't stick out like many other movies that haven't made as much money as Avatar. And I can get that. I can completely get behind that reasoning right there. But to say that it left no footprint whatsoever, it's total bogus. Now, the next 2 complaints that I hear constantly about Avatar actually cancel each other out. The first complaint I hear is that nobody remembers the movie. And the second is that it's overrated. So which one is it? Is it that the movie's overrated, or is it that nobody remembers it? Because if nobody remembers it, you sure about that? Because a lot of the people that bring up Avatar in conversation usually slander the movie and saying, oh, nobody remembers it. You clearly remember it if you keep bringing it up in conversation just to slander the movie. And then as for the other argument, is if everyone on planet Earth says it's overrated, then that's not possible. That word has been used on Avatar so many times throughout its 13 years of existence that the movie has actually bounced back into being underrated. So, congratulations, Internet. You made the highest grossing movie of all time underrated. The next complaint that I hear, and this one particularly irks me the wrong way, is when people say, why can't James Cameron just make other movies? Why does he have to make Avatar sequels? Well, the simple answer to that is because he's James Cameron. He can do whatever the hell he wants to. And look, James Cameron doesn't need me to come to his rescue. He's got more money than God. He's good. He is doing good right now. But what irks me about this particular complaint is the hypocrisy behind it. I always see a big push for directors to make the movies that they want to make without studio interference. And James Cameron is one of the most high-profile directors out there, to the point where he has carte blanche to do whatever he wants, just like Martin Scorsese, just like Steven Spielberg, just like David Fincher, just so many big-name directors that could do whatever they want. But for some reason, with James Cameron and these Avatar sequels, people are just like, just make other movies. We don't want these Avatar sequels. I will never get over the fact that people are saying this about James Cameron, who's had an excellent track record in terms of his filmography, and yet they will constantly push Zack Snyder, a director whose filmography has been mediocre at best, to release the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which I still like that movie, but it is not groundbreaking, it is not a masterpiece, and Zack Snyder is not at the same level as James Cameron. Like, don't even kid yourself with that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all that the people who are championing Zack Snyder to release his adaptation of a DC comic are criticizing James Cameron for making a sequel to his original work. And on that note of originality in films, the last complaint I hear about why Avatar sucks is that it's just Dances with Wolves, Ferngully, or Pocahontas. Okay, so what's your point? Like, yeah, Avatar shares similar themes and ideas to those three movies, but that's not the sole reason for saying it's terrible. People who have made this argument back up the claim by saying, oh, it's the white savior story, and I gotta admit, for that, I have no defense. I am not the biggest fan of the white savior plot, where basically the white man leaves his people to go with a native tribe and help defend them against the white people. Like, it's a tired cliche plot that I wish they would stop. And I can kind of see eye to eye for people who say that as a criticism. Avatar does share similar themes to those three movies, but for it to be a remake of those three movies, it is not. Because Dances with Wolves is a Western, whereas Avatar is a science fiction film with tons of special effects. And then Ferngully and Pocahontas are animated musicals, and they're also two animated musicals that aren't very good. So it's just kind of weird that those three movies keep popping up in conversation. And by that logic, if Avatar sucks just because it's a remake, which it's not, of those three movies, then Star Wars sucks because it's The Hidden Fortress. The Magnificent Seven sucks because it's Seven Samurai. A Fistful of Dollars sucks because it's Yojimbo. The Lion King sucks because it's Hamlet. Titanic sucks because it's just Romeo and Juliet on a boat. I said before that this is not a review of Avatar, but all ideas come from somewhere, and Avatar does enough to where it stands out and becomes its own thing. So, I'll elaborate more when I actually review the movie, but I think it's just plain silly to say that this movie is like that movie, therefore it sucks, when there are several movies throughout history that have taken elements from other stories, and yet people adore them. It doesn't make any sense. So to bring things back home to Avatar: The Way of Water, and why I think you should give this movie a chance despite what that first movie has went through in terms of criticisms is mainly James Cameron's track record. This is a sequel to a James Cameron movie that is being directed by James Cameron. And to go back to the things that people have said about why is he making sequels to Avatar, have you seen his other sequels? James Cameron has made not one, but two of the greatest sequels of all time. Aliens is a sequel to someone else's movie, Ridley Scott's Alien, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day is a sequel to his own work, The Terminator. Then I can hear people saying, what about Piranha 2 The Spawning? I'll talk about that next week. And judging by the first trailer, again, I haven't seen the second one as of recording this video, it does look like this will repeat elements from the first Avatar, but T2 and Aliens repeated elements from their predecessors. Like Terminator and Terminator 2 share the exact same plot. If you look at it from a bare bones perspective, it's just the T-800 role is reversed, where Arnold is now the good guy in T2, where he was the bad guy in T1. Aliens has a similar structure to Alien, including the false ending where, oh, we've got the alien, we killed it. Nope. It snuck aboard, so we gotta fight it again. So even if there are sequences that are repeated or mirror the first Avatar, I see no reason at all to believe that it'll be terrible. And then in terms of the movie might do badly in terms of box office, we've been down this path twice before. Let me take you back to Titanic when it came out in 1997. The movie was a big deal when it came out because a lot of people were predicting that it would flop. It's a $200 million movie based off the sinking of the Titanic. Thinking about it today, that's a crazy concept. Nobody would ever greenlight a $200 million movie about the Titanic, especially considering that Titanic at the time was the most expensive movie made. There was no movie before that that cost $200 million to make. And yet that movie defied all expectations and became the first movie to gross $1 billion worldwide. Cut to Avatar back in 2009. People said the same thing. It's gonna flop. But not only did it once again break expectations, but it became the first movie to gross $2 billion worldwide. And now we're talking about Avatar: The Way of Water, and people are making the same nonsense claims again. Like, do you all ever pay attention to history? Are you ever gonna learn that you don't doubt James Cameron? Now, all that being said, do I believe that Avatar: The Way of Water will dethrone the first Avatar to be the highest grossing movie of all time? If I'm gonna be honest, no, considering that movie tickets are more expensive now, and also considering that Avengers Endgame, while it briefly beat Avatar to be the highest grossing movie of all time, it didn't make $3 billion worldwide. I don't see Avatar: Way of Water being as big as the first movie in terms of box office, but there's no real competition until Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania comes out in February. So between Way of Water and Quantumania, Avatar has a lot of time to make a lot of money. But to say with confidence that The Way of Water is going to flop, come on. Like we've already went through this experience twice already. There's no reason to make yourselves look foolish again for a third time. So to wrap things up, I don't have any issue with people who are skeptical about this movie coming out because it could be bad. Like there's a very good chance that it could be a bad movie. But considering James Cameron's track record, especially when it comes to making sequels, all signs point to Avatar: The Way of Water being a great movie. At worst, this is going to be a good movie, and once again shows how solid of a track record James Cameron has as a director. So I think it's best to just go in with the best of intentions, hoping that it's good. There's no reason to hope that this movie flops, especially considering that, again, James Cameron has had an excellent track record with his movies, and he always proves everyone wrong. I'm excited for this movie. I have really high hopes for it. But what I'm even more excited about doing is reviewing all of James Cameron's other movies. So starting next week, I will be reviewing Piranha 2 The Spawning, and then every Wednesday leading up to The Way of Water, I'll be reviewing the other movies that I have not reviewed. That would be The Abyss, True Lies, Titanic, and the original Avatar. I've already reviewed the original Terminator, Aliens, and T2, so this will be exciting. And there you go, that's all I have to say about Avatar: The Way of Water in terms of how I feel about it, how I feel about the public reception about the first movie and going into this one. Now I want to know what you guys think about it. Are you excited for Avatar: The Way of Water? Are you not? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.